Hi, I'm Pat Overham with ICS, and on behalf of our entire team, I'd like to thank you for tuning in today. For the past 20 years, I've had the pleasure of working with K-12 school districts all over the state of Minnesota, and there's nothing more rewarding than seeing the potential for positive change transition into reality through facility projects. These projects are about way more than bricks and mortar. They're about positively impacting the people that are served by the facilities. Today, we wanted to focus on some projects that involve partnerships. Whether it's a school district partnering with a regional hospital to develop a community wellness center, or a school district that wants to partner with a business or industry partner to enhance career and technical education space or develop a fine arts auditorium, or a district that is partnering with a city or county to develop a joint use space. All of these types of projects have proven to be a very efficient use of taxpayer dollars. They've been a great way for these entities to share space and resources, and they've proven to be an incredible way to impact not only the students and the staff, but community members that utilize these facilities on a daily basis. And that's why we're excited about sharing some of these real-life partnership examples with you today.
Here to talk about a unique partnership with the Independent School District 318 that's based out of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and the cities of Grand Rapids and Cohasset. In April of 2018, the Grand Rapids School District essentially passed a $68.9 million referendum. As part of this referendum stemmed from years of planning and partnerships between the city of Cohasset and the city of Grand Rapids. Let me start by just talking a little bit about the partnership with the city of Grand Rapids. The school district and the city spent a significant amount of time looking at where it would be the best location to place two brand new elementary schools within the city limits of Grand Rapids. From the various discussions came out properties that were owned by the city of Grand Rapids, and they worked on a land swap between the school district and the city of Grand Rapids to swap land for best use by both entities. The land the school district received allowed them to build their schools, one next to athletic facilities, which saved the taxpayers money from not having to build new athletic facilities. The other was on a fresh piece of property that was also then to be sold in some lots in and around the school to allow for future expansion and economic development for the city. In exchange for that, the city of Grand Rapids received property that would be surplus by the school district from a former school site and one of the elementary schools that would no longer be in use by the school district, to allow the city, again, to use that property for economic development and housing. The partnership with the city of Cohasset allowed the school district to include onto the school a daycare facility and a senior citizen and community center facility to be added onto the elementary school to serve the general public. Part of the reason the city of Cohasset included a daycare facility onto the elementary school, they had a lot of folks that were trying to move to the area to fill open jobs, but they couldn't find daycare. So they felt like that capital investment would be a future economic boost for the community of Cohasset.
Pat Manduri, School Board Chair from Independent School District 318. Pat joins us. He is the School Board Chair and has been for quite some time, a longtime board member representing not just the school district, but also I've always been impressed how he represents the various communities that are served by the school district. Also joined by Max Peters, City Administrator for the City of Cohasset. Welcome, Max. And then also Tom Pagel, City Administrator for the City of Grand Rapids. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the call.
Today, everybody has in their mindset, well, what's in it for me? Well, here's what's in it for you. City of Cohasset, you got a senior center. You're going to have a daycare center. They're going to be attached to the school. The City of Cohasset upsized the gym in Cohasset so that gym will be accessible to their residents. And here in Grand Rapids, the partnerships with one of the sites on the east sites and using the fields there, the soccer fields and the softball fields. And here we are down at the west site and housing project there. And I know houses are starting to be built there. And again, it just, you got to show the community, you got to speak to the community on the benefit of it. And again, just through those partnerships, my opinion, it had a lot to do of getting this referendum passed and the working together piece. Big difference from the first time we failed 2-1 to the second time when we passed it.
Really, I think what's amazing about this collaboration really was this intersection of opportunity. You know, that we as a city were looking at, you know, our current facilities and wondering, you know, what we could do to bolster our you know, the community that we have. looking at the school as an opportunity, and then really even being able to look and scan, look at, using Deer River as the model. I mean, that's really where this starts, of having a co-located elementary school, daycare facility, and senior community center. The Deer River model was really seeing that, I think allowed a lot of people to have a vision that it was achievable. So looking at those, kind of saying, well, why couldn't we do this at the Cohasset Elementary, and really leverage keeping the school there with, in having the city invest some funds, to even expand that facility, and then to add the, daycare and the community center.
Here we got the senior center that's attached to the school. We have a daycare center attached to the school. What great resource do we have there that we can interlink and interconnect between the schools, daycare, and senior centers to help us? We're always looking for volunteers, and a lot of seniors are willing to come in and volunteer and work with kids. So I see this as Max mentioned the word opportunity. There's more opportunity down the road here. We just got to get the timing in place now and get COVID put aside, so where we can really solidify that going forward. Yeah. And Max made a great point, and I just want to reiterate that a little bit. Everything is built on a relationship. And if you don't have a relationship, you don't normally have trust. And I got to give credit to Max and Tom from both cities here, as well as other people within the county. We have a lot of relationships going vice versa, this way, that way, and that builds trust. And when you bring an idea to the table, people are willing to sit down and listen to that. And if they buy into it, they're on board, and they're going to work towards that goal. And this Cohasset project with the city and the school, it's just a prime example on where we landed. And again, as said, we're filling the gap of services that was needed.
So Tom, the unique partnerships that were formed between the city of Grand Rapids and the school district, a lot were around land. Could you just kind of describe the various partnerships as briefly as you can, all the coordination efforts between the two entities?
And fortunately, in this case, for the two new elementary schools in the city, in both cases, the city owned the property. So it made it fairly easy for the district to acquire the properties. We were actually able to reduce monetary transactions and simply trade properties. Elementary schools are a huge part of a healthy community, and housing is a huge part of a healthy community. And so as we speak, the Riverview school site's being redeveloped into a 56-unit combination of townhomes and apartment complexes for working families, up to 80% median household income. And we envision the Forest Lake Elementary site being redeveloped similar to the former middle school site, where that will be a workforce housing again, but single family housing. And then the West Elementary school site, the brand new site, really created an opportunity for about 15 to 16 market rate new housing lots, and along with a $27 million assisted living facility that's currently under construction. I think that partnership really helped us create a healthier community. And when you tie that with Cohasset's partnership with the district, with the community center, and with the daycare, this elementary school referendum just made us a much stronger community.
How about land transfers and land swaps with the city really helped the school district achieve your mission of trying to get a referendum passed for elementary schools?
Well, again, it showed the community that we were working together in the betterment of the community as a whole. And then in our area, in my opinion, everybody's concerned about their taxes. And I think this project in both communities showed that we were concerned about their taxes as well. And by developing these partnerships, I want to say we held the referendum dollars down, if that makes sense, because of the partnerships. In Grand Rapids, we were able to swap land out back and forth at a very reduced cost versus if we had to go buy this property off the market, so to speak. And those things just don't happen overnight. Now, if this land was privately owned, we're probably going to pay market value on it, right? Well, that hits the taxpayers as well. In this case, as Tom mentioned, the city owned the property. It made it a little easier for us to work on those transactions. And then the other side of it is again, just to say what Tom did, housing's a shortage here. And with housing comes families. With families come kids. It helps the school district in the bigger picture. So again, a win-win all the way around and great for the community.
What advice would you have for other school districts and cities that might be trying to work together? And Max, let's start with you.
You know, I think the biggest one goes back to that conversation of collaboration and how you make that work. We have other projects where we try to collaborate with, other entities or, other government agencies, and it doesn't always go, smoothly. So I think one of the big challenges is trying to find that mutually beneficial kind of perspective, making sure that in a good collaboration, both sides are getting a little bit of what they want. And I think when you look at that through that lens of just, if it was one side that was winning, it'd be a much more difficult collaboration. And I don't think it works as well. So I think, trying to identify and establish what those, mutually beneficial wins are for each organization. I think that's actually really important in understanding how well these things can work.
Tom, any thoughts from you on advice for other school districts and cities that might be trying to work together?
Every public entity needs to communicate with each other, and they need to recognize that sometimes you need to give, and you aren't necessarily going to have a greater benefit than the other entity, but ultimately it does come back. I remember Pat Maduri wrestling me in my office on the West Elementary site, and I was thinking to myself, my God, we're investing a lot of money in infrastructure out here. But just sitting here in this interview and talking to you, all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, the referendum was $70 million. And as a result of that, the city's seen $35 million and the school's only been open a month, So the city, county, and school district, as a result of the project, have already seen at least half of their investment on top of what they made come to fruition on the tax rolls. So, be patient, be open, listen, and work together.
It's their tax dollars. And when we start competing with one another over their tax dollars, and what I mean their tax dollars, our tax dollars, the community tax dollars, we lose. We all lose in that sense. And a lot's been said here between Tom and Max is that you got to ask yourself, can we afford not to do this together? And the answer is you can't. You got to come together today and work on these projects. And Tom really hit the nail on the head. It's give and take. And we can't lose sight of the ball, and we got to look at the bigger picture. This is what we know today, but what's it going to look like in the future if we do this? And how does this benefit us as taxpayers in the long run? Again, relationships are built on communication. Communication and relationships equate out to trust. And I think over the years, there's been great communication between school districts and City of Rapids and City of Cohasset, and that equates out to trust. People come and go, but there's usually an anchor there at each one of those governing agencies that, we worked with them before and it was a positive. Let's work with them again and it'll be another positive. When we stop talking, we all lose. And I don't mean we as a sense of a school district or Tom as a city or Max as a city, but as a community, we lose out. So we got to continue to foster those relationships. We got to continue to have that communication and look for the good in it. It's easy to say, well, we can't. We can come up with 1,001 reasons why we can't do this. And I always said, let's come up with one great reason why we need to do this and that it's really going to benefit the community. And it's working on a problem that we have in the community that we can solve by working together. And I believe we did that. And when you start thinking outside of the box, you start being creative and you look at potential problems that you have. How can we solve these problems by working together? And just a broad statement. I think in the environment that we're in today, and people look at their tax dollars, they want to see people come together. They want to see government entities come together and spend their dollars wisely. And I would say this project did that. One other partnership for us, Jeff, when I say us at the school district, after the first failed referendum, we reached out to the Grand Rapids Chamber and talked with Bud Stoner, president of Grand Rapids Chamber, and asked for some of his members to get engaged and tell us, what are we missing? What are we missing in our plan? Is it the right plan, not the right plan? Do we need to do this, not to need to do that? And he formulated a committee, and two individuals that led that committee actually led our referendum committee. And at the end of the day, they really reanalyzed what the school district did to bring it to a referendum, and just reaffirmed what our conclusion was at the school district. And I think that spoke volumes to the community as well.
With other communities, with other cities, look at ways to help your schools. Take those opportunities, like Pat said, to sit down and talk. When an idea comes up, try to figure out, is there something else that we can add to it? Is there something else we can do that will create spin-off economic development with it? And don't close the doors, keep them open.
I'm Todd Rapp, CEO of Rapp Strategies, a communication firm headquartered in Minneapolis. We're a proud partner of ICS. We've worked with them on dozens of referenda around the state, and we've worked for literally 50 school districts on either operating or building referenda. Our job is to help them think through the strategic communications. How do you reach your communities and engage people in a long-term vision? The first superintendent I ever worked with looked at me and said, Todd, I just feel like we're going from referendum to referendum. And my response to him was that, don't forget that a referendum is really an outcome. It's a benchmark. It's how you demonstrate whether or not the community truly understands the direction the school district is going to go. When a school district steps forward to partner with the cities and the counties and the hospitals and other community leaders, what they're really doing is making a commitment not just to today, it's to the next 50 years. And there's some real advantages if you think about how you want to engage your community to doing it. First of all, it brings on a variety of new advocates who will step forward and communicate the vision. Secondly, it creates a different story, a story that goes beyond simply what's going to happen in pre-K through 12 education, but how the entire community and its residents from age 1 to age 90 are going to engage with the school district. And finally, long after I'm gone, or your current superintendent or school board no longer runs for re-election, you've left an asset for the community. Because when you invest in your schools, you're investing in 50 years and several generations of students and staff. That's one of the reasons why community partnerships are so valuable, because of the investment you're making in the direction that your community is going, not just where they are today.
So thanks a lot for tuning in today. Our hope is that some of these real-life examples might spark some thought as to how a partnership might be the right solution for your facility needs. It can be difficult and challenging to try to develop these partnerships, but the outcomes are most certainly worth the work, and ICS is here to help, so feel free to give us a call. It's all about building strong connections.